Hello, and Chef Jim here, and today we're going to make mayonnaise. So mayonnaise is one of the cold sauces that we have to perfect in the garde or the pantry area. And when we talk about cold sauces, we have two basic classifications of sauce. We have emulsions, which mayonnaise is an emulsion, and then we have a temporary emulsion. And a temporary emulsion is more like your vinaigrette dressing, where when you let it sit, it separates. If you stir it up, it's homogeneous. So that's an example of a temporary emulsion. Today we're going to make mayonnaise, which is a permanent emulsion. It doesn't separate if you made it properly. So I wanted to show you my mise en place, how I have this set up a little bit. So what I have here is I have my kitchen towel on my cutting board, and then I have a little small pot on top of that. And then I take this towel, I put the pot on one side of the towel, bring the towel over, and I do this, because this is where I'm going to make my mayonnaise. And what this does is now I have a steady platform and I can do this by myself. I have one hand free that I can add the ingredients, and I have the other hand where I'm whisking, because we need to do both at the same time. So the first thing I want to do is get my eggs, and I need 2 egg yolks. I always like to separate my eggs by hand. That way I know I get all the white, and I can very carefully pull this little white piece off here, this shalazi. And what that is that's just, it's kind of a marker inside the egg that holds the yolk centered. And it's just got a little bit of a texture to it, and we don't want it. All right. So good. So if you have old eggs, this part is a little bit more difficult, because old eggs, trying to get the last of that white off of there. Old eggs, the yolk will break. There's a little teeny bit of white in there, but we'll. So now I have my eggs in here. So let's talk about this bowl for a second. If you're going to make a 2 or 4 yolk not hollandaise, that's a different video. A 2 or 4 yolk mayonnaise, get kind of a small bowl. And this bowl, I have it set at a little bit of an angle, one so the camera can see it a little bit better, but the other is because I want to keep these eggs in a very small confined area. If you have a large bowl, you end up spreading those 2 egg yolks over a wide surface, and it's really very hard to incorporate the oil. So by keeping it in a relatively small area, I can do a much better job of whisking it, and it keeps it confined. So I want to do this and just until it'll start to change color a little bit. It'll get a little bit of a lemon color, and it'll start to lift just a little bit. All right, so now I'm there. See how long that took? It was like 30 or 40 seconds of good whisking. So I want to so I'm doing half of this recipe, and my recipe calls for white pepper, which I'm not going to use, dry mustard, 1 teaspoon. So I have my measuring devices here. And I have my, see, I don't want to let this go because I know this thing is handle heavy. Alright, so there's my half teaspoon right there. It also calls for just a pinch of salt, and that's just right there. And this is sea salt. I'm not using kosher salt. So I want to mix this up really well. The dry mustard is actually going to help bind a little bit. So I've been using a whisk for a long time, so I can go for a while. When you guys do this, it's fun to have somebody that can help, that can take over. All right. So now I have it. It's really almost at a ribbon stage, if you can see that. And that's what we want. So now this is the part. So I get a vigorous whisk going. You see that? Just a couple drops. And I'm trying to go in right where I'm whisking. Let it incorporate. So we're starting now. That's a good start. It has a different look to it if you don't get the start right. It looks a little grainy. It doesn't look smooth. So you notice that I'm now adding just a little bit more. All right. So now this is our mayonnaise that we've started. Our emulsion is going good. I think we can go now. So getting a little bit. So I'm going to add just a touch of vinegar at this point. And this is my vinegar. So I'm adding this because, there it goes. And you saw I just added a couple of drops and it loosened right up. It's getting a little thick. And what that does is it makes it hard to whisk. All right. So now back to the oil. All right. Look at that. Looks good. Oops. So even at this juncture, we have a good emulsion going, but you still have to kind of worry a little bit about how fast you're putting stuff in. All right, now this is just a little lemon juice. All right, so let's put the rest of the oil in here. So again, can you do it in the mixer? Yes, it can be done in the mixer. It's a little hard to start the emulsion in a mixer because a lot of mixers, the whisks, they don't go all the way down to the bottom of the bowl. All right, so there's the last of the oil right there. All right. So we're not quite finished yet. So we still have a little bit of the vinegar left. I'm going to go ahead and we'll pour that in there. And you can see again, it changed color very quickly. Now here's the lemon juice. This is the last of the lemon juice. Just drops in there like this. All right, here we go. So that, see, it doesn't hold stiff peaks like a meringue would, but we don't want it to. If I had wanted it to be a little thicker, I could have just held back a little bit of the vinegar or the lemon juice. So what I want to do now is taste. Okay, it's good. It's a little bit spicy because I used that jalapeno olive oil. It's also got a little bit of a bitter tone to it. So I'm going to add a little bit more salt. That's about a half a teaspoon of salt. And just, that's like a quarter turn on the black pepper. Salt sometimes can mask bitterness. So we'll see if that made any difference. It's a little bit better. Yeah, that's a little bit better. It's still got some nice spicy to it. That's got a good kick. So, all right, so there's my mayonnaise. So I can take that and I'm going to put that in a clean container, label it, put it in the refrigerator. And that's going to be great on all kinds of sandwiches. And that's also going to be really good as a binder or background for like a potato salad or a pasta salad. So that is your basic mayonnaise.